This video is about how to solve an Ohm's law problem. So what is Ohm's law? So Ohm's law states that the potential difference, or the voltage, across an ideal conductor is proportional to the current running through it. What does that mean for us? It essentially means that we have an equation that we can work with to then solve problems in circuits dealing with voltage, resistance, and current. So Ohm's law gives us a formula to use, a formula to start from. And the formula that it gives us is V equals IR. So in this equation we have V standing for voltage, I standing for current, and R standing for resistance. So with this formula, V equals IR, the formula for Ohm's law, we're going to be using some different rearrangements of it when we're doing problem solving. So we are going to be utilizing our trusty old triangle, which hopefully you remember from last year. Okay, so we can enter Ohm's law equation into the triangle like I've shown here. Remember that this line here means divide, and this line here means times. Okay, so through using the triangle, if we want to isolate I, another formula we can use, I equals V divided by R, and likewise R equals V divided by I. V is always going to be on top there. So voltage, current, and resistance are all closely related in a circuit, which is what we see from the Ohm's law equation. We have current, symbolized by I, which is the movement of electrons and the measurement of that movement of the electrons. We have voltage, symbolized by V, which is what makes those electrons move. And lastly, we have resistance, which is symbolized by R, which opposes the movement of electrons. Now, V, I, and R are the symbols for voltage, current, and resistance. They are used in the formula, but they are different than the units that we use to measure those values. So voltage is measured in volts, and the unit symbol for that is a capital V. Current is measured in amperes, or amps, and the symbol for that is a capital A, and resistance is measured in ohms. The symbol for resistance is this little squiggly guy down on the bottom in that table. It's a Greek letter, omega. So let's move on to solving an actual Ohm's law problem. So I've laid out 4 steps for you guys to hopefully help you through this. First thing that you do when you see a problem is you're going to list the values that you know and the one that you don't know. There's always going to be 2 that are given to you, and there's going to be one that they're asking you to solve for. So once you figure out what your unknown value is, you should be able to use the triangle to help determine what version of the equation you're going to use to actually solve for that unknown. So if your unknown is voltage, then you're going to use V equals IR. They would have given you a value for I, current, and a value for R, resistance. So you'll be able to plug them into the equation, multiply them, and come out with your voltage value. So you're going to place those values into the equation that you've chosen, and you're going to calculate it. You need to make sure that your final answer includes units as well. So let's actually try this. So our question is, in a circuit with a resistance of 2 ohms and a current of 4 amps, what is the voltage? So I'm going to list what I know first. Step 1, list the values that are known and the unknown value. So first off, they give me R. R is 2 ohms. Next, they give me current. Current is symbolized by I, and that is 4 amps. Okay. Our last value, which is our unknown because they haven't given it to us and they've asked us what is the voltage. Voltage is a question mark. So we need to figure out which version of the equation we're going to use. Now we're solving for V, so we are definitely going to want to use this guy, V equals IR. Okay, so V equals IR. This is the version of the equation we're going to use. We need to make sure to write it down. Okay, I am then going to place my given values into the equation. Okay, so V equals 4 amps times 2 ohms. Okay, 4 amps times 2 ohms, 4 times 2, so we now will calculate. We will have a value of 8, and the unit for voltage is volts. So our answer is 8 volts. Let's do another practice problem. So this problem asks us how much resistance does a light bulb create if it has a current of 2 amps in a 10 volt circuit? Okay, so first we're going to list the values that are known and our unknown value. So we've been given 2 values that are right here. First off, we have a current of 2 amps and we have a voltage of 10 volts. Resistance is our unknown. It is what they want us to solve for. So because we're solving for resistance for R, we are going to use this version of our formula over here. So I'm going to write the formula again. And I'm going to substitute my values. Then I'm going to calculate 10 divided by 2. It's going to be 5, and our unit for resistance is ohms. Alright, so I'll do one more practice problem with you here. At this point in time, I'd recommend that you pause the video here and try and solve it on your own, and then double check with my explanation. Alright, so this question is asking a 6 volt circuit has a resistance of 2 ohms. What is the current running through it? So first off, let's look for our knowns and our unknown. We have a 6 volt circuit, 2 ohms right here. So V equals 6 volts and resistance R equals 2 ohms. Our unknown, what we're supposed to solve for is current. Okay, so because we're solving for current, we're going to need to use this version of the Ohm's law formula. I'll write it down here and then I will substitute. And then calculate. 6 divided by 2 is 3, and our unit for current is amps. Some things to remember when you're doing Ohm's law calculations. Remember to always read the questions carefully. Okay, word problems can be tricky. You need to be really thorough when you're reading them and identifying what numbers have been given. Always show your work. Always. Okay, you need to show formulas, you need to show substitutions, and lastly, always include your units. That's it for now. Good luck.